Hey, everybody. Yes. Welcome back to the Paid Search Podcast. My name is Jason Rothman. As always, I'm joined by the great Chris Schaefer. Chris, it's a very special day for you. We've already talked about that off air, but just know that I know about what's going on with you. Besides all of that, how are you doing? Are you having your cake and eating it too today?
I haven't had any cake. It's my cake day, by the way, if anyone's wondering. Birthday. Thank you, Jason. It's amazing that you. Thanks
I
for
just knew.
noticing.
Yeah, I just knew.
Yeah, you just knew automatically it was my birthday. So yeah, thanks. I'm not a millennial, so of course I work hard on my birthday. I work hard on every day, and that's the way it goes. I'm happy to talk about today's podcast.
I think that's what we should do.
have
We should
yeah
get into the podcast. So,
yeah
um, let's. I just want to preview the episode real quick. And then we'll read a review. We're in December. We're doing the agency series. This is episode number 2 out of the 4 agency series, and this one's very, very important. Last week we talked about systems, but if you don't have clients, who cares if you don't need systems? You have to have clients. And what we focus on most of the time, Chris, is marketing. We focus on marketing, getting leads. And that's what we do in our own businesses, trying to get PPC clients. But once you get the leads in, if you don't close them, you're nothing. You don't have an agency. So you have to close clients. There is a very large sales component to running a PPC agency. What we've done is we've looked at what we've done. We sat around and we said, why do we have clients? Why, when people contact us, are we able to sign them up as clients at a high rate? And we broke it down to 3 things, a 3-step process. And we will get into that process. But first, Chris, I want to thank WordStream. WordStream is the reason we're doing this series here in December. And I want to tell everyone about WordStream Advisor for Agencies. You can go to wordstream.com/paid search podcast, learn about WordStream Advisor for Agencies, and get a free 14-day extended trial that they're offering to listeners of the Paid Search Podcast. What we're talking about today is the importance and also how to do it, how to turn leads and prospects that your agency gets into actual signed up customers of your business, clients of your agency. And it's super important. Yes, it's important to know how to get leads. We're marketers, we get leads. But if you can't turn those leads into actual customers, if you can't do sales and win their business, then you don't have an agency. Because to have an agency, you have to have clients. To have clients, to get clients, you have to be able to sell and turn prospects into actual signed up clients. So the way I do that is with WordStream Advisor for Agencies. WordStream is an award-winning PPC software. They've analyzed over $1.5 billion of advertising spend. They're a Facebook marketing partner, a Google Premier partner, a Microsoft Bing advertising partner. And week to week, we use WordStream Advisor for Agencies to do a ton of great things, including very efficiently manage Google Ads and Bing accounts in the same place in one platform. And then also we're able to run automated reports weekly and monthly that we send out to clients to show them the data that they want to see. But when it comes to selling and turning prospects and leads into actual signed up clients, I use WordStream to do 2 things: run audits and send out proposals to prospective clients. These 2 tools in the WordStream Advisor for Agency software have been game changers for my business. These used to be the biggest pain points in my business. Running audits, sending out proposals, it used to be super frustrating, super time consuming, and each prospect was different, and it took a ton of time. And it really, just to be honest, it was really extremely frustrating. And it was probably the biggest hole in my game in terms of running an agency. But WordStream Advisors for Agencies has helped me plug that hole and fix that problem. And now what I'm able to do is I get access to a client's account. I click the audit button in the WordStream software, and instantly I'm able to generate a beautiful audit report for the client and show them, for the prospect, and turn them into a client and show them what they're doing right, show them what they're doing wrong, and then tell them how we can help them going forward. And then when it comes to proposals, they have such a cool proposal generator tool inside WordStream Advisor for agencies. When you get a prospect, you're able to punch in information about their business, some sample keywords, where your ads are going to run, and then you just click a button and instantly you've generated a beautiful proposal with multiple budget options where you can show them, hey, for this budget, you get this many clicks, impressions, conversion. For these other budgets, you'll get this much more. And I'm able to show clients what they can expect when they start working with me. And that's helped my close rate. And then most importantly, I think it's just gotten me motivated to sell. The pain points of audits and proposals are gone. I'm more motivated to sell. And that's had me engaging more leads, engaging more prospects, sending them these proposals and getting them signed up as new clients. It's been a great month for me. I have 3 builds scheduled for next week. And I really think the reason why things have picked up is because I'm motivated to sell, because I've removed the pain points of audits and proposals, because I'm basically able to do them within just minutes inside WordStream Advisor for agencies. So this tool, WordStream Advisors for agencies, it's really helped my agency grow. I recommend you guys check it out. Wordstream.com/paid search podcast. They're offering a free extended 14-day trial to listeners of our podcast. Go to wordstream.com/paid search podcast. You can sign up instantly, and we recommend you guys check it out.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate that. Jason, do we have a review of the week to read? I do love to hear from people around the United States, around the world. It's pretty cool. What do we have?
Thanks, Chris. And you are the fan interaction guy on Twitter and on the when people send in questions on the website. And so we all know Chris puts a lot into that, and he really appreciates when he hears from you guys. So this week's 5-star review on Apple Podcasts comes from Cyril, and he's from Great Britain. And Cyril has a 5-star review. And he says, solid PPC entertainment for all the family. Yes, yes, yes. Thanks to Jason for all the effort and hard work he brings week on week to make this podcast what it is.
What?
Co-host Chris only brings a good bookshelf to the game when I bother to watch him on YouTube. Would be good to see him more in the forum. Since starting my training in PPC, this has been the one and only podcast I've listened to. A good mix of practical and smart solutions from both, with the added sprinkle of genius from Jason. Top work.
What the?
So, Chris, you love the fans and the fans love you. So I thought that would be a good review.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a great. I'm glad my audio podcast can provide a great bookshelf. That's what I bring to my audio podcast. That's great. Thanks,
Chris, are you able
to
handle? I mean, it was from Great Britain, so I don't know if there was some kind of like dark humor, irony coming from Cyril about his thoughts on you, but I didn't know if I was going to read that. But are you able to handle that? Okay, are you okay?
Oh, Jason, you know me. I'm like a finely waxed car. Things just roll right off. You pour a little water on there. But for the first time in my life, I'm highly offended.
Oh, wow.
And extremely angry about what he said. And I don't know if I'm going to be back next week. So why don't you just take it from here?
All right, Chris. Well, yeah, we're about to get into it. Just to let everyone know the things the Paid Search Podcast is doing overall. Questions for the show. We do Q&A episodes from time to time. You can send them in at paidsearchpodcast.com. We have the first 100 episodes available for sale for a just small amount on our website, paidsearchpodcast.com/archive. And then, of course, the most recent 81 are out there in the feed. Forum.paidsearchpodcast.com. We invite you to join, talk Google Ads and pay-per-click with other professionals, and ask your questions on there and stuff like that. So thank you for helping us grow the show, everybody. And we're back in our agency series for the month of December, presented by WordStream. And this week we are talking about the 3-step process for winning over prospective PPC clients. And Chris, I guess we're going to get into our 3 steps, and then we're just going to have a conversation. But from my point of view, man, I don't like sales that much. I really don't. I like marketing. That's why I do marketing for a living. I like getting in front of the right people and being so good at marketing that you don't have to be the best at sales. But at the same time, as I said in a YouTube video this week, and people didn't like me saying it, they're like, you shouldn't say that. But I'm like, I've just got to be honest with people. I'm addicted to money. And so if you want money, and you want clients, you got to be good at sales. And
Yeah.
just looking at what we both do, it's a 3-step process. So why don't you just kind of preview the 3 steps, and I'd like to get your overall thoughts, and then we'll jump into step number 1.
Yeah. Well, Jason, you're right. Whenever I think about sales and I think about marketing, I imagine, like, when you were a kid, you get like a package in the mail, and it would have all those styrofoam peanuts or something in it, something horrible for the environment back in the 80s, 90s, which was great because they were so much fun to play with. And I think about when I get a lead, it's like taking a whole handful of those packaging peanuts and throwing them in the air, and like every time I get a new lead, I'm like, yay, and it's fun, And then when I look at my inbox and I think, oh, look at all these leads I have. Now it's like I'm staring at these packing peanuts on the ground, and I think, well, crap, now I need to clean this mess up. Now I need to take action on all of the wins that I've had, because now I need to take responsibility for the marketing that I put out. So, it's a deal to be able to handle it. And so there's 3 steps. I think nobody's going to be surprised by these 3 steps. They're very common, but I think what they're going to be surprised about is how we address them and our key points of how we do this part of the winning process for the interested prospect. So, number 1, phone call, right? 90% of the time, there's going to be a first phone call. And that's the way just about everything goes. There's going to be a discussion. Number 2, there's going to be an audit or a discussion of what the problems are, what the the actual account, the Google Ads account. And then number 3, we're going to have to lay out a proposal of what we're going to do about the problems that we have, the KPIs that aren't being hit, the metrics that need to be improved. And that proposal is going to need to be very decisive and specific and have goals in mind. So that's it. 1, 2, 3. First call, audit, proposal, and then we move on from there. And that's the 3-step process. So, let's dig in. I know, Jason, you've had plenty of experience with calls. Me too. In many years that we've done this, and I think it's really cool that we can talk about this as completely separate entities, because
we might have disagreements.
Together.
Yeah, we might have disagreements.
My process is not necessarily going to be the same way your process is. So what I think is unique about this, instead of hearing some guy just yap on about this is the way to do it, we could have completely different perspectives. And I'm pretty sure we will, because we don't iron out our processes together. We've decided on these separately.
Right. So last week I talked about the onboarding form, and what that does for me is it helps the client kind of qualify themselves to my business. And I know basically where they want to advertise, what they're thinking in terms of budget, like what topics they want to target, what their goals are with Google Ads, and then also what their questions are. So I take care of that with the onboarding form, and then we get to the phone call. And that's the first kind of voice to voice. And then if you meet someone face-to-face interaction with the client, and I've already told them through email exchanges and through just content out there, like what we do for them, what the service is, Google Ads management, trying to get them leads, tracking everything and stuff like that. So they know what I do. I know what they want. I know what questions they have. And the calls end up being answering the questions that they have when they filled out the onboarding form. Like one of the questions is, do you want to run remarketing? And a lot of times I get people that ask, I don't know, tell me about remarketing. So we take care of questions like that. And then the other questions I get are particularly questions about my service. So that's what I find the topic of the first phone call being. It's questions about how the actual service works. And then it's answering their questions about Google Ads, whether it's a random remarketing question or a random, hey, what should my budget be for this area, stuff like that. But that's what the calls are about. But there's two things I'm always trying to do in the calls to sell, because this is about selling. And just for all the moral high ground people out there, I hope you have a landslide, because I just can't stand you. Because when I'm hearing myself in my earphones say, the two things I'm always trying to do when I sell on calls and be strategic, I am trying to be strategic. And so I can see these moral high ground people out there with their nose high in the air, saying, oh, you're trying to be strategic with people. That's so gross, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's really not. I'm trying to get people to do what I want, which is sign up with me so I can help them grow their business. So that's the way I look at it. And if anybody has a problem with that, I'll see you in the homeless line when I make so much money that the money doesn't do anything for me anymore, and I have to turn to other substances, and I get addicted and I lose it all gambling. And I'll see you in the homeless line, and you'll be in the homeless line because you never make it because you're on the moral high ground. But it's about you got to be strategic, and you're trying to persuade. But again, Chris, it's to help them. It's to help them see the light and to hire you so you can get them perfect search terms, so you can get them great cost per conversion, so you can get their phone ringing off their hook, lead forms coming in every day, and help them grow their business, hire people in the community, pay their local. I mean, how much do you want me to go on here, Chris, in terms of how good we are? But you get it. So I am very strategic on these calls, and this comes from experience. And I'm sharing this on the show today. I guess I don't know why, but we're doing it. So, because it's very important information. There's two things I'm picking up on. One is experience in their field. I have found that this is hands down for me. I literally put my hands down for everyone not on YouTube.
Your shoulders.
That's what you're missing out on.
Hands down.
It's the biggest sales point to me. Experience in their field. The theme I get over and over on this first phone call is they want to know that you understand Google Ads, pay-per-click, Bing, Facebook, whatever you're offering, and all capital A&D, that you understand their business and their industry. And we'll talk about that. But that's the first thing I'm looking for. And if I do have experience, I like to highlight it. The second thing is I listen for their pain points, their problems. That's the main thing I'm listening for. Whether it's something they don't understand, whether it's a bad experience with a former provider, whether they don't know what's going on in terms of whether it's working or not, I'm listening to their problems. So those are the two things I'm trying to accomplish on the phone call, Chris. Well, I guess three things. The third thing is to move the ball forward, access to their account to run an audit, or if they don't have an account yet, send over a proposal, jump to step 3. But those two things I do on the phone call, Chris, listen to see if I have experience in their field and talk about that, and then also listen for their problems and pain points. I have a feeling you're going to maybe have a bone to pick with one of those, and then with the other one, you're going to think it's awesome. So what are your thoughts on those two topics? And is there anything else that's a primary goal for you in that first phone call, or are those the two things you look for or think about as well, or neither of those? I've never had a sales call with you. I've never called you and said, I need Google Ads Manager, because I do it myself for a living and I can run my own ad campaigns. But if I wanted more time with you each week, which I do, and you don't give it to me, because if someone looked at our messages back and forth, I think I counted 13 in the last 24 hours I sent in a row, including one video.
Yep.
And I didn't get anything back from you. Yeah, 7-minute video. And I would bet everything I have that Chris did not find the end of that 7-minute video. Like somewhere between, no, you didn't.
I did watch it all. Yes, I did.
I strongly doubt that. You don't watch anything I do fully. You don't listen to me, but I learned so much from you that I look up to you, and happy birthday to you, big guy. Okay. And so yeah, those two things on the phone call, Chris. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I talk now?
Okay. Is that what this podcast has come to, Chris? We don't play off of each other anymore. It's just I over caffeinate myself.
It's my
turn.
And
I go through so much stress in the week, and they don't let Michael Jordan be Michael Jordan sometimes. And I just come on this podcast and I just roll. And then it used to be bounce back and forth, and now it's like bouncing a basketball against a curtain. And you literally have to jump in with like, can I just? So.
A basketball against the curtain. I love that. It's like, I'm going to throw it. Oh, there it goes. I think I saw a foot when the curtain parted for a second. Oh, okay.
When the
Yeah.
curtain, that's how you're using your time, your small, valuable time I'm giving you right now, Chris. You're going to talk about the foot, we get the metaphor. It was a good metaphor.
I'm gonna
Don't beat
play
it
on
to
that.
death.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
What are we even talking about? Okay, we're talking about AdWords, and then we're
So
talking about
the
sales.
two things that I really
gotcha.
focus on in this phone call: experience in the field, and then listening for their pain points. Are those on your radar? What
So,
else is on your radar?
so I don't often hear experience in the field. Um, Mainly because I think you hear that a lot because I think you are really the king of
Careful, Chris.
pushing
Careful. Don't
to
talk about someone else's
specific
business. Careful here, Chris.
to a specific industry. You are, and
All
you've
right,
always
I'll
been the
give you that.
king of talking to people's pain points in specific
Movers.
verticals.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, movers, and I mean, you're owning other industries too. So
Yep.
I know that you do that. So I wonder if you get a lot of those comments simply because you push the fact that you are a king in a set of industries. Although you can work in any of those industries. I'm not saying that you are one trick pony.
Yeah.
But so I don't hear that a whole lot. What I definitely do on my first call is, I think you said it best, listen, right? I mean, listen is huge, because I often hear someone pass through some little comment very quickly in their quick history of the Google Ads campaign. They'll say different things. They'll mention this, that, and that, and then I'll prod a little further, and turns out they've been through 6 agencies in the past 2 years or something, or they have, they're having major issues with product sales, and they're calling you because they're about to lose the company. I mean, there's all kinds of little hints that you can hear, and this makes a really big difference, not only in pitching the call, but I mean, this would be a whole nother conversation, but whether you want the client or not is going to be a big deal, because when you
Great
listen
point.
you may find out that, you know I've even had people who contact me who have a plumbing business, but they only want me to manage a certain set of zip codes, or the west side of town or the east side of town. And what I find out is, as they have strange answers about what they're saying, it turns out they're playing 2 different managers against each other. They want to see who performs better, and they want to hire that guy. So I've had stuff like that before, and you
I've
have to listen
had that too.
for these little situations, because there's so much you can learn in that initial history of the campaign kind of discussion, or here's where we at, let me talk about my business kind of thing. And it's easy to tune out because you quickly want to start talking, but it's a critical part is to listen to that. And let's say you've gotten past that listen part now. Okay, you've gotten to the point where they're like, so tell me about, how would you do this, how can you help me, or how does your business work, tell me about your prices, whatever. Once they hand the baton off to you,
Mm.
here's what rather than I think you summed it up really well on things to talk about. I'll tell you that things that I often get clients simply because I don't do certain things.
Mm.
Let me explain a little bit about what I don't do. One of the things I hear a lot, and I heard this just a week or 2 ago from someone that hired me simply because I didn't act like the know-it-all who says, I have Google Ads figured out entirely, follow my strategy and it'll work. Um, I'm going to use Skags. It's the absolute best system. I think it's wonderful. It'll work great, guaranteed to work. I'm going to get you amazing results. Or I'm going to use geo-focused landing pages. We're going to build you 60 landing pages.
Mm.
Or no, this is going to work great on display. I'm going to do display in YouTube, and it's going to be great. You're going to get millions of impressions and lots of clicks, and you're going to get a lot of leads from that just because the number of eyes, right? When someone approaches this call in a know-it-all type of situation, they will basically dig themselves a hole. And if the person that they're talking to does not like the pitch, I've heard plenty of times people say, okay, yeah. I mean, they kind of say, oh, wow. Wow, that wow kind of, when you're telling a story nobody cares about, and they say, wow, how about that? Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Wow.
You get that kind of response from people. You could be pitching this amazing skag idea. And maybe
Hmm.
they just don't really like skags, or they don't know what skags is. And you're talking out of their league. You're using language they don't understand. You're talking about landing pages, and they just spent 20 grand on a brand new website. And now you just want to build landing pages
Oh yeah,
and send
that'll
people
make
to
people
cheap
mad.
landing pages. You never know what kind of touch point is going to fire for them. So number one for me is don't be a know-it-all. Don't think that you have the solution and that your solution is the best and any person they talk to is inferior to your problem.
I think that's an excellent point, because I know that if they talk to you, listening to them and then giving them advice about Google Ads and their business based on listening to them, that you're the only person doing that out of the 5 agencies they talk to. Everyone else is talking about their blah blah blah, whatever specialty they have to offer, but they're just that in that know-it-all mode and not answering. So Chris, that's what I do. I think the biggest tip with the first phone call is to listen. So just like you're saying, that's so you throw it out to them like, how can I help you? You listen to them, and then how do you close it and get it to step two? To me, it's tailor the Google Ads advice and the kind of vision that you set out for them, what you can do for them, to their problem. So if they're talking about like they don't understand pay per click and what's going on, I might go heavy on search terms and being able to control exactly what people show, what they
Mm,
search on their
mm-hmm.
phone and computer when our ads show up. If they talk about, yeah, we've been spending $5,000 a month for the last 5 years, and we just know it's working, but I'm just so frustrated because I just spend the money and I just don't know what's working or what we can do better, then I'll really go into all the facets of conversion tracking. Or if they talk about just client communication, and this is a weird one, Chris. I've had two of the biggest money makers I've ever made, like in terms of clients. Um, their former pay-per-click person, they would say things like, yeah, he does our Google ads and stuff, but he's like, lazy or on substances and drugs. Like they would just say
Mm,
that. And people, I mean, I
mm-hmm.
guess some people don't want to hear that, but there's some people in our industry that there's not a lot of barriers to entry. You don't have to go to 5 years of college and then take a
Yeah.
state certified CPA exam and be a CPA. It's just you fire up your laptop lifestyle, passive income, blah, 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 and you get all these people that
Lifestyle. Yeah.
do
Yeah.
drugs and manage client account. I've heard that multiple times from people. So then in
Yeah.
terms of that conversation, I'm listening to their need and they need a professional. So then I'll go into how I do this full time, how I have employees, how we have a client communication customer service system and business hours and all that. So really listening to what they're saying on the call, listening to what their pain point is, and then explaining whether it's a business thing or a Google Ads specific thing, how we can solve their problem. And let me ask you a question, Chris. For me to do that on a call and get to the next step, and basically move the ball forward, I usually only need to do that one time. So I usually only hear or focus in on one pain point. I answer and tailor my answer to one pain point. Yeah, there's some back and forth about small other questions, but usually I just need to prove that I'm different and qualified one time to them, and that kind of listen to their pain point, explain clearly how you can help them system, and then they're willing to move the ball forward. What do you feel about that just one time thing?
Yeah. Oh, I definitely agree. I think, the first phone call, if you can't, I mean, you said it before, you should be able to do a 15-minute discussion and know within that 15 minutes that, yep, this is going to work. I
Yeah.
can help you. No, I can't help you. Right. I mean, certainly shouldn't be an hour. I think when I first started doing this, I would spend an hour and I would start the discussion about, yeah, I grew up in East Texas, and I just start with like this completely irrelevant stuff and go through a life history. I'm like,
Yeah.
I realized they I am not saving them any time. I'm not making this easier. My process does not make them, make this a simpler thing for them. They might as well go and learn Google Ads by themselves rather than engage me because I'm making this more complicated. So
Right.
one thing that I like to do to explain to people about how I fit, when I've talked about, once I've listened and I've responded to a few things, my simplest answer into how I fit into Google Ads is to simply say, I manage and run and know everything you need to know about Google Ads. And you know about your business, you know about your industry, you know about your products, how much you need to sell, how much, how to sell it, what kind of clients you need to hear from, what kind of searches typically work, or what kind of key phrases you hear on the phone from your clients. So when we match these two together, you know about your business and I know about your I know about Google Ads, we have a winning team here. And the key component, once we have these two ingredients, the key component that I try and move forward from here into step 2, into the audit part, is we start mixing this pot with these two ingredients. Slowly, my PPC knowledge is going to leak over to him. He's going to understand more and be more comfortable about PPC. And I am going to understand more and more about their business over time to make better decisions about their keywords, about their ad copy, about bidding, about all these strategies. So eventually, we have a very blended mix of these two expertise, and we have a winning team. That's that's how I usually try to, in a bigger picture, explain my role and how our relationship will work.
I might when I combine your business and my
There you go.
pay-per-click knowledge, sounds familiar. Chris,
It's magical.
I might start using that analogy or that explanation. Mine has been a little more crude.
Oh boy. Come on.
Such a nervous Nelly over there. No, what I say to them is basically, and I don't know if this is just laying it on a little too thick sales wise or whatever, but I say to people, like, basically the way to think about our service is you've got a picture in your head of what you want Google Ads to be, and we're just the magic system behind the scenes that almost like a software just gets it done for you. So whatever's in your head in terms of your goals, as long as they're reasonable, of course, and achievable, we get that done. So if you want to show up on these kind of search, we get that done. If you want your cost per click to be this, we get that done. Or at least we focus on it.
You can explain to them that the images in their head should be goals, endpoints, and not keywords, ad copy, settings, and things like that.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't want to hear like you're going to get that done with this one keyword you want to try, or you're not seeing yourself number one, which we'll talk about in Patreon. By the way, I do have a Patreon. Just came to me. I'm going to take a second to write it down here on a coffee stained napkin, Chris.
Well, I'll take us to number 2 here.
Yeah.
So number 2 is audit. Okay. Sometimes this is a very important aspect of the sale, and sometimes it's not. I mean, just this week I got access to someone's account, and I'm gearing up. I'm setting aside some time for an audit. I open it up. Jason, they're running a smart campaign. Done. My audit is complete. I have no reason to do an audit because I can skip the whole thing, because a smart campaign cannot be edited, cannot be optimized.
Easy.
Do anything that I can help with. So I think, hey, here you go.
Yeah.
Now we can move into the expert process of Google Ads, the Google Ads system. So an audit wasn't important. But other times, someone who comes to you said, I've been running Google Ads for 6 years, and they have 60 campaigns, and there's a lot to look at. There's conversions with conversion value. They have issues with they have branding campaigns that are leaking into non-brand. So you don't have a clear picture of what their real return on ad spend is. I mean, all kinds of things. So I'll tell you, for me, of course, on situation 2, this is the important stuff here, because I'm going to need to convey a ton of information in a short amount of time. I'm not going to be able to keep their attention for a hour-long session. Who the heck wants to even go through an hour-long session of an audit? Nobody cares. That's the reason they're calling you, is because they don't want to have to make decisions like this. So I'll say I'm the king of a 10-minute audit. I can take an account, look at it live while I'm with them on the phone, and immediately pinpoint, this is a big piece. This is something I'm concerned about. This is a red flag. This is a red flag. And I don't want to be the know-it-all, right? I don't want to be the guy who's like, oh, you should absolutely never use exact keywords or broad keywords. Right? I might see broad keywords, but you have
Mm,
to look at the big picture. I mean, what are the metrics saying about this? What's the search terms look like? What kind of conversions are they getting? What's their search impression share, their position, all this kind of stuff? If you draw a line and say, oh, I looked at your account and it's all wrong. You've been doing it for 6 years, completely wrong. I can't believe you're even making money at this. You want you want to get somebody who say, okay, thanks, bye, and go to the next person,
right.
give them that line, right? I mean, that's
No, I think
horrible.
it's all about laying out a vision for me with the audit. So, like, just like we were talking about listening to their needs and their problems in the phone call, then when you get to the audit, you're right. An audit can go on forever because there's so many aspects to a Google Ads account. I mean, you could go through everything they're doing wrong, everything they're doing okay, but you could do it better a different way, everything they're doing great and you want to build on it, everything they're not even doing at all, and introduce it into the discussion. So just goes on and on and on. But I like focusing on things they had a pain point with, and then I like focusing on really obvious things. So like search terms, pretty obvious thing to focus on. They're either good or bad. And if they're bad, I tell people, why. And then you can also tell them how much money they've spent on some bad search terms. You got to be careful because it
Hmm.
can really upset
Hurt some
people,
feelings.
especially maybe if they
Yeah.
were managing the account themselves. There's no need to be a jerk about
Or a
it and
family member.
or a family.
A
Yeah,
family
I get
member.
that all the
Yeah,
time.
might have
Yeah.
been doing it.
You got to be careful about that. So if they did spend $25,000 on bad search terms over the last like 2 years, and I mean, maybe give them a taste of that, but you don't need to just brutalize it. Um,
Yeah.
if we were talking on the call and they were talking about, well, I don't know what I'm getting for it, I might focus my audit on conversion tracking. And I might be like, hey, I looked for the conversion codes. Your reported conversions seem almost non-existent. We're only seeing calls from extensions. I looked on the site. There's no website call conversions. I looked on the thank you page on your form. There's no code on the thank you page. I don't see the global tag. So I focus on things like that. But yeah, Chris, I think my main piece of advice would be if you're going long with the audit, you're doing it wrong. Long
Yep.
is wrong.
Yep. Oh,
You like that?
you're
Because
full
it
of
because
sexy
if you're
taglines.
doing it long, you're not you're not conveying the value you can offer just by
Yeah.
focusing on a couple things that you could do a whole lot better. I'm going to throw one on you, Chris, that we didn't talk about.
Oh,
I love how you just swallowed there out of nervousness, even though it was you were just swallowing anyway at that second.
I
That was
just
good
swallow
timing. Yeah.
naturally. Just
Um,
drink water. I mean, come on. But okay.
um, what do you do
Okay.
if a client is, and I'll tell you what I do after you tell me what you do, or upfront, whatever you want to hear. What do you do if you get into an account and the search terms are solid? If conversion tracking is in place and the cost per click and the convert cost per conversion look like numbers that seem acceptable to you with your experience in that industry, if they're spending their full desired budget, if their location targeting is great, if you look in the change history, you see some nice, smart optimizations being made. What do you do if everything's great?
Hmm. That
Because
man,
people are
that's
going to run
yeah,
into
that
that.
is a. I I'm going to tell you the truth. Um, what I what I've told people before is you have a great campaign. I've had people that come to me that currently have an agency and want to know, could you look at this? Could you get a third party review on this? I've told people, you don't need me. Whatever
Yeah.
you've been doing is working. And I've turned down work because they're like, can you bring the conversions? Can you get it twice as good? And I see like 90% impression share. They're targeting everywhere they want to target. The search terms, just like you said, everything's hitting and metrics are good. And I think, I no,
Yeah.
no. I mean, this is beautiful. This is optimized. This is working great. Instead, this is a maintenance. And what I mean, this is a side note, but what I usually do is I offer them training. I think you need to maintain this. You need to learn optimization. You don't need a full-time manager on this because you'll just be paying for something for them to just twiddle their thumbs. So, absolutely, that's what I say.
Good point, Chris. I think that kind of makes my first of 2 points about that situation where you're asked to audit something that's in really good shape. One, there's a potential that they're going to be a bad client, because if they're not happy with something
Oh,
that's great
good
already,
point.
you know what I'm saying? Then
Yeah.
that might be a red flag in terms of client selection, which we may talk about on a future episode, client selection. Because if they're not happy and then you get in there and you're just able to achieve the basically the same, then they're not going to be happy with you. So, little bit of a red flag. Maybe on the positive side, they don't understand how good they have it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, but
Yep.
most of the time, in my experience, they know they've got it good, and they're just one of these people that
I
have unrealistic
I
expectations.
I think that's an excellent point. Is that a lot of people can't, I mean, we're in a minority of people that can look at hundreds of accounts and have
Mm,
an idea of what success looks like and what good and bad looks like. And a lot of
mm,
times that's a good point. That's a be a very important point in the first call and in the audit and then in the proposal,
mm,
is to mention, here's what success usually looks like, and use realistic numbers. What you actually see in other accounts. So yeah, I mean, that, for someone who has a banging campaign, maybe it's just hearing that, hey, you realize most people have like single digit conversion numbers and you're in like the 25%. You realize your return on ad spend is like 5 times, and most people are happy to get 2 or
mm.
1.5, something like that.
Yeah, and the second thing to me it says is that maybe it's more of a relationship, customer service,
Mm,
um,
hmm.
issue. They're a person to person issue. They're not happy with their current agency, and how can you tell them how you can communicate better? How can you tell them you can work with them better? Maybe there's a need in that area that you can fill. But that's what I see when there's perfect audit. So, um, step three, Chris, we talked about the phone call. Then you do an audit. Sometimes they don't have a Google Ads account yet, so you just jump to step three, and then after the audit, you use the audit to create your proposal. So whether it's an account, whether they don't have an account yet and you just go from a sales call to the proposal, or they have an existing account you audited and you go to the proposal, step three is the proposal.
Mm.
So what do we, I guess my first point I want to make to you, Chris, is and ask you if you've seen the same. In my experience, people, and I used to not do proposals, but now I have WordStream. I put a few factors in, I'm able to get them done quickly and lay a roadmap out for clients. But before that, I wasn't really doing them. That was to my detriment, because my point I want to make to you and ask you is people absolutely freaking crave these proposals. Okay.
Yeah.
And I try to use my verbal, beautiful voice skills that are fine tuned week to week on a podcast listened to by hundreds of millions of people, billions,
Yep.
hundreds of billions of people
Hundreds
around
of
the
billions. There we go.
galaxy. And it just doesn't do it for people. And I'm like, are you listening to this right now? Do you have
Yeah.
two ears?
Yeah.
But they want to see it with their eyes. They want visual. So I've just found
Colors and
people
graphs.
create, yeah, colors, graphs, stuff to chew on. Have you just seen this absolute craving for proposals?
I think um, back in the day, and it's my birthday, so I'm reflecting back on time and aging and the old days. But back in the old days, I would write up, an HTML email that had a bolded headline and had, a couple bullet points in it, and they would be red and green and organized, and that's what people wanted. But also, our reports were emailed spreadsheets with clicks and graphs that were created in Excel. Right now, we have online tools that can make beautiful PDF proposals. And so, because of the proliferation of
Mhm.
technology, yes, I absolutely think this becomes like a something that people crave,
Yeah,
because
and
now
expect.
it's so much more readily available. People didn't crave that email, that email with colors and bold and italics and
Mhm.
bullet points. But now that they can see something very graphical and informational that they can chew on, yeah, now it's kind of like, hey, can you, show me what you got? Give me something to look at.
Okay, Chris. Well, in those proposals that I create, I just lay out the budgets, different scenarios with budgets, clicks they can expect, conversions they can expect, impressions they can expect. My big point with the proposal is that the whole goal of doing Google Ads work, moral high ground people, get ready, stand up straight.
Mm-hmm.
You're
All
about to
right.
get an earthquake on your little hill. The whole goal of this business is to keep people retained month after month, year after year. All right, moral high ground people, get ready. What's the goal of business? Make money. Is
Make money.
everybody okay? Is everybody okay? Does anyone need a shoulder to cry on? Did anyone's dreams just
What
get
is that? Is
crushed?
that for the betterment of society? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
It's to make
Chris,
money.
some people would argue that's the absolute beautiful thing about a system that took a country 250 years ago
Mm,
from
yep.
nothing to what it is now. It's capitalism. It's good for me to make money. It's the way I make money is by offering a product or service you want. Therefore, I exchange what benefits you for what benefits me, and it's a
Yep.
win-win. So that is what business is about. That's the way I approach it. That's the way
Yeah.
I think it really is in reality. I think that's why I've had success, because I'm living in reality. And the whole goal is to make money. How do you make money? You provide what people need. But my point is, Chris, the goal is to make money over and over and over again, month after month, and to keep the client happy and to keep getting them good results that help them grow their business, help them hire people locally, help them pay their local taxes for schools, help them give to their favorite charity. But it's also to help you make money. And what I found is if you don't lay out it can be positive, but it's got to be realistic in your proposal. If you don't lay out a realistic scenario of what they can expect, then they're not going to stay with you because you're not going to deliver what you said you would. So obviously you want to be positive. One thing I've made a mistake on is I'm way too negative when I talk with people, because we can get into this Patreon 16 personalities. My personality is blah 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 blah.
Oh,
One of the things
yeah.
in my personality is, I don't know if you guys want this out there. I don't know if 2% of the population has it, because they do. As soon as you tell me a scenario, I will take you through every single angle and look for all the loopholes in the way it'll fail, and we can safeguard against them and redundancies on redundancies. And Chris, it's a personality with the brain. It happens instantly, instantly. So one of my
Amazing.
flaws on sales calls and then someone in proposals, I've been way too negative because I've seen a lot of Google Ads campaigns that haven't worked for various reasons. So you don't want to be too negative. You want to be positive, but my approach is you got to be realistic, because I want them to be happy with their results. We actually are able to get them, keep them coming back, keep making money. Everyone's happy. What When I say the word realistic on proposals to you, Chris, do you agree with that? Or do you think
Oh,
there's shady agency people out there that are going, huh, realistic? Well, I don't even know. I've never heard that word before. It's all about selling, 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 signing them up. So do you see how the proposal plays in with the way they think of your service? What do you think about that?
yeah. Well, let me tell you, the message that I put forward in my proposal, my discussion, all this in the first call, is there's only one thing. And let's talk about, being honest in reality. There's only one thing I can promise, and
Whoa,
that is that I'm going
whoa.
to deliver good traffic.
Oh
That's
man,
all.
I've heard this from you before.
Yeah.
I've heard this when we
Uh,
talked about how many X they can expect, how many Y they can expect. Your whole thing is like, you can't control how people answer the phone and their intake. You can't control how fast they get back to people on lead forms. You can't control whether their website crashed yesterday and no one told you. You can't control, and I know you hate this one, when clients change their page links and don't tell their
mm,
Google Ads manager. There's
mm,
a special
mm.
place in places where people go. That's very frustrating because it kills the
Yeah.
performance results, because you just send
Yeah.
people to broken pages. No one told the Google Ads manager. Then they don't let Michael Jordan be Michael Jordan, and then he's got to. I digress.
Yeah.
Your whole thing is
I mean,
traffic. What you can control. That's basically what you like to focus on.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, when it comes down to reality is, listen, I mean, this is the brutal, you want the brutal truth. The brutal truth is, Listen, I'm going to do a bang up job on your Google ads. And
Whoa.
if your product fails, it's your product. I mean, I don't say that. Of course, I don't say that. But I
Well,
mean,
that's because you
that's
don't
the
work with.
message.
That's because you don't work with clients anymore, where they're selling testosterone pills or
That
something. That's
that's
like,
true.
or a guide for how to run a car wash and make passive income.
Right.
Like,
I'm gonna yeah,
come on, and
yeah, the
target the
ebook
words car
guy
wash or stuff. Yeah.
who wants to sell some ebook thing. Yeah, I mean that's true. I typically prefer to work with businesses with established products and services that have been around for a while that have
Mm.
a guaranteed
So your
or not
proposal is
guaranteed, but
based on what
a
you
good
can do
system.
for them, like literally
Yeah,
what you can do. I
this is
can
what
show
I'll
you on
do.
these search
I
terms.
will.
I can get
Yeah,
you the most clicks possible, but there's a
you
ceiling,
want to
there's a floor.
guarantee. Yeah, you want to
Wow.
guarantee on something? I'll guarantee you good traffic. You tell me what kind of clients will buy from you, and I'm going to send those clients to you. That's what I'll get you. Yeah,
Okay, I'm
and that's
just
it.
thinking through all the agencies I've ever worked with. There are going to be agency people who disagree with that approach because they're going to be like, well,
Sure.
then some people are going to say, well, that's not good enough. I have these unrealistic expectations. So I'm going to hire the agency that matches my unrealistic expectations. And can you imagine the conversations? Because I've heard some of them, Chris, from advertisers who have unrealistic expectations and agencies who try to just match their unrealistic
Yeah,
expectations. Like it's a
they
never ending
confirm them.
cycle of blame and mysterious things about Google ads. And well, what if we run from 11 a.m. to 12 on Mondays, and then on Tuesdays from 3 to 4 we increase our budget by 700%, and then
Oh
what if
yeah,
we try to run, it's like they come up with endless things because they'll never get to it because it's unrealistic.
yeah. And they'll say,
Yeah.
"Oh, sir, absolutely, that's a wonderful idea. Nobody's thought of that before. I guarantee a 15% increase in conversions by tomorrow. Done. Thank you. Hang up." I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it's it's a
It's
sad world.
different strokes for different folks because I guess some people just want to they just see the dollar bills and they keep it running. My whole thing is I like clients that stick with me for the right reason. So I think
Yeah,
we're
this
both
is
coming at
yeah,
it from the same perspective. With our proposals, we like to promise what will happen that we can control in reality,
yeah.
because reality will happen in the next few months. And just a quick sidebar, Chris, in terms of sales, just something I want to talk about before we wrap up here. We've heard this a lot. You need 3 months on Google Ads to see whether how good it can work or to get things tuned up. I've heard that metric a lot from various people in the industry. And I used to think that was a selling technique. I used to think, oh, I'm the greatest Google Ads manager on the planet. I can get you perfect search terms in the first week. Yeah, there's the ramp up I talk about, but the ramp up's over in a few days and things are just perfect from a couple weeks on. That's what I used to think. I thought it was just a
Mm,
sales strategy. I have changed on that, Chris. I now do believe and agree that it is a 3 month process is a good overall metric for all industries. And the reason is quality score and quality score history and things that I can't show you data on, things that I can't prove. But just in the past few months, I've dealt with some new accounts where, man, for various reasons, things are just way different, way easier once you build up some quality score history. And I have seen it change over the first 3 months. So I'm with everybody else now in 3 months. Just sidebar.
yeah.
Do you also think about that metric or what? So let me just ask you a question. If a client says, hey, Chris, how long is this going to take to work? Because you'll hear that in the proposal when they review it. You'll hear it on the sales call. What's your answer to that question? How long will this
Yeah.
take to work?
Yeah, I mean, I usually give them a scale. I say the first month I'll know more than I did when I started.
Mm,
At the end of the second month, I'll know even more, and by the third month, we'll know pretty sure if this is going to be a viable system or not. So yeah, I'm absolutely with you. So it's a progression. It's not like 3 months is magical. It's that it's a
true.
certain amount of time that builds and builds. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and now I know enough. I've gotten enough data, had enough full weeks to see what happens in the process.
Yeah, that's a great point. And nothing magical about 3 months, but it's just a good threshold number to kind of
Yeah.
set expectations. So, Chris, we're going to keep this series going all month long. Next week, we're going to talk about how to manage a ton of accounts and talk about some like management techniques. Then we got Patreon today, but first, why don't you tell us about WordStream Advisor for Agencies?
Yeah. So we've been talking about winning the sale today, which can be an extremely time consuming process. As you've heard us talk about if it wasn't for WordStream. Using WordStream's advisor for agency system, you can make the process faster and more accurate. Without the right data, you're walking into a new relationship completely blind, and the sale won't happen if you don't hit all the right notes. Okay, so with WordStream's advisor for agencies, you can finally give accurate estimates about expected cost per click, impression volume, cost per conversion. It's all there in one tool. No more guessing, right? You want to know the worst question a new prospect can ask. Jason, we didn't talk about this, but they ask, how much should I spend? Right? I never had a good answer until I saw WordStream's budget proposals. Right? This is a great tool. Plus, it works really. It looks really sharp and clean. And I don't know. I don't know if we're allowed to use strong language on the show, Jason, but I'm going to say the A word. Okay. Audits. It takes a lot of time just to wrap your head around a prospect's account. And then you have to present it in a way that they can understand. With WordStream's advisor for agencies, you can audit accounts with an award-winning tool backed by over 1.5 billion in spend. So stop working alone, get some real tools in your sales tool belt. Go to wordstream.com/paid search podcast. All one word, wordstream.com/paid search podcast. Sign up for a 14-day trial. No credit card required. Sign up and try it out. No hassle. That's wordstream.com/paid search podcast.
All right, Chris, thank you for that. We're going to jump over to Patreon, talk about some things that happened this week in the management of Google Ads campaigns. And we'll see you guys over there. And we'll be back next week with the next episode of the Paid Search Podcast.